The moment my wife Patricia looked me dead in the eye across our kitchen table and said, "Gordon, I want a divorce, and I'm entitled to half of everything," I felt like someone had just kicked me in the gut with steel-toed boots. But that wasn't the part that really got me. It was what she said next, with the cold confidence of a bank manager foreclosing on a family farm. That includes the house, the business assets, and everything else. My lawyer says it's all very straightforward. I'm Gordon Newman, 64 years old, retired civil engineer who spent 40 years designing bridges, commercial buildings, and infrastructure systems that were built to last centuries. Never thought I'd need those same analytical skills to protect myself from my own wife. For 38 years, we'd shared this house, the house I'd designed myself from foundation to roofline. Every beam calculated for maximum load bearing, every window positioned for optimal natural light, every electrical circuit mapped for efficiency and safety. The morning sun coming through those custom triple-pane windows I'd specified, hitting the kitchen island I'd built by hand with hidden cable management and integrated charging stations. The reinforced basement where I kept my engineering drawings, surveying equipment, and the complete structural plans for every modification we'd ever made. Patricia Newman, 61 years old and a senior manager at First National Bank, was sitting there like she was conducting a loan committee meeting instead of destroying our marriage. Her fingers drummed against the granite countertop I'd templated and installed myself, calculating square footage and market values while I was still trying to process what was happening. The house, the retirement accounts, the lake cabin, she continued, folding her manicured hands on the table with the precision of someone used to delivering bad news about mortgage applications. Daniel says the law is very clear about marital assets. Daniel, so she already had a lawyer. Had a whole plan worked out while I was still adjusting the water pressure on our shower system and fixing the garage door opener she said was making noise. I stared at her, trying to understand how the woman I'd supported through her MBA program, whose career advancement I'd celebrated, whose student loans I'd helped pay off when interest rates were killing us in the early 90s, could sit there with such ice-cold certainty. Outside, the automatic irrigation system I'd designed and installed was watering the herb garden Patricia always claimed she was too busy to maintain. The timer system ran on a schedule I'd programmed to account for seasonal weather patterns and soil moisture retention rates. "You're serious about this," I said quietly. Patricia gave me that smile she used with difficult bank customers. The one that said, "This decision has already been made. You just haven't accepted it yet." "Gordon, I've been serious about this for months. This marriage isn't working anymore, and we both know it." Months. She'd been planning this while I was resealing the deck, she said, looked weathered. While I was upgrading our internet infrastructure so her work-from-home setup would run smoothly. While I was winterizing the lake cabin she said she wanted us to retire to someday. Replacing the dock supports and installing the new water filtration system she'd specifically requested. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent my entire career building things designed to withstand stress, load factors, and environmental pressures. Bridges that could handle twice their rated capacity, buildings that could weather Category 5 hurricanes, water treatment systems that could function during power outages. But I'd never stress-tested my own marriage. "And you believe you're entitled to half the house?" I asked, looking around at the custom millwork I'd crafted, the built-in storage solutions I'd engineered, the whole house backup generator system I'd installed after the ice storm of 2019 left us without power for 8 days. She leaned back in her chair, confidence radiating off her like heat from summer pavement. "It's marital property, Gordon. We've been married 38 years. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be." I studied her face, the woman who used to bring me coffee when I worked late on project blueprints spread across this same table, who used to laugh when I got excited about new building codes or energy efficiency standards. For a moment, I wondered if I'd somehow miscalculated our entire relationship, like an engineer who'd missed a critical load-bearing requirement. Then I noticed the leather portfolio beside her coffee mug. Legal documents, color-coded tabs, the kind of organized presentation materials Patricia used for major loan approvals. This wasn't a conversation. This was a business presentation she'd rehearsed. "You've already filed," I said. She smiled, that banking smile again, the one that had helped her climb the corporate ladder for 3 decades. "Of course I have. There's no point in dragging this out unnecessarily." Clean break, fair division. We both move on with our lives. I stood up and walked to the window overlooking the backyard, the elevated deck I'd engineered to handle snow loads that exceeded county requirements, the underground sprinkler system with smart controllers and moisture sensors, the workshop I'd built to my exact specifications with climate control systems that protected my precision tools and technical drawings. 38 years of marriage, and now she was talking like I was a tenant who'd overstayed his lease on a property that had never really belonged to me. "You should look at the papers," Patricia said behind me, her voice carrying that patient tone she used when explaining loan terms to confused customers. They'll help you understand how this is going to work. I turned back slowly. Her confidence wasn't just arrogance. It was the mathematical certainty of someone who'd run all the numbers, consulted with experts, and verified her calculations twice. She thought she'd already solved this equation. What Patricia didn't know, what she'd never bothered to pay attention to during all those evenings when I worked on boring paperwork at the kitchen table, was that engineers don't just design structures to be strong. We design them to be protected against every conceivable failure mode. And years ago, when Patricia's bank faced federal regulatory scrutiny and I realized how easily financial institutions could drag down innocent parties, I'd made some very quiet, very careful decisions about protecting our most important assets. But Patricia had never asked about the specifics of those protection strategies. Patricia had never wondered why certain legal documents required her signature. And Patricia had never imagined that the methodical man sitting across from her might understand more about asset protection than she did. Patricia, I said calmly, you might want to be very careful about what you think you're entitled to. Her smile faltered just for a second. In that tiny moment of uncertainty, I realized something important. My wife had spent months preparing to take half of everything I'd worked 40 years to build. But she'd never prepared for the possibility that the house wasn't actually available for her to take. The next morning, Patricia acted like she was already running the place. She came into the kitchen wearing that navy blazer she put on when she wanted to look like she was in complete control, the kind of outfit that made bank customers assume she knew exactly what she was talking about, even when she was about to foreclose on their family phone. She poured herself coffee and opened her laptop like she was setting up a mobile branch office at our kitchen table. The same table where I'd spread engineering drawings for weekend projects, where we'd celebrated promotions and argued over household budgets, where we'd once spent an entire evening assembling a complicated spice rack I'd bought at a craft fair because Patricia said it would help organize her cooking supplies. She never did use it much. Morning, I said, buttering my toast while watching her establish her temporary command center. She nodded without looking up from her screen. I'll be working from home today. The realtor is coming by at 2 p.m. to do a preliminary market assessment. A realtor. So that was step 2 in her strategic plan. I'd spent 40 years managing complex construction projects, and I recognized efficient project management when I saw it. Patricia was treating our divorce like a corporate restructuring, complete with timeline milestones and deliverable targets. Kind of early to be getting the house appraised, isn't it? I asked, trying to keep my tone as neutral as discussing weather patterns. Patricia finally looked at me, her expression carrying that patient authority she used with customers who didn't understand compound interest calculations. Daniel suggested we get current market values for all major assets. It makes the property division process more efficient and reduces potential disputes. Property division process. Such clean, clinical language for dismantling 4 decades of shared life. I wondered if they taught that kind of emotional detachment in business school, or if Patricia had developed it naturally during her banking career. I finished my coffee and stood up, carrying my cup to the sink. The same sink I'd installed with a custom water filtration system, because Patricia complained about chlorine taste. The cabinets I'd refaced when she decided the original oak finish looked dated. The breakfast bar I'd extended because she wanted more counter space for her meal preparation. What time did you say? I asked. 2 p.m., she replied, already turning back to her laptop. Good, I said. I'd hate to miss it. Patricia frowned slightly like a project manager who'd just heard about an unexpected variable in her carefully planned timeline. You don't need to be here, Gordon. It's just a routine walkthrough. I live here, I replied simply for now. That got her attention. She stared at me like an engineer trying to solve a structural problem with insufficient load data. For 38 years, Patricia had been able to read my reactions like studying financial reports. She knew when I was frustrated with a difficult project, when I was satisfied with a solution, and especially when I was ready to surrender on something challenging. But this expression didn't fit any of her established categories. You're being unusually calm about this whole situation, she said, closing her laptop with the deliberate precision of someone accustomed to maintaining control during difficult negotiations. Well, I replied, rinsing my coffee cup, it's not the first unpleasant surprise this marriage has delivered. I could see that comment land like a structural load she hadn't accounted for. Her jaw tightened slightly, but she maintained her professional composure the way she did during challenging loan committee meetings. After Patricia left for the bank, I walked through the house with the systematic attention I'd once used for final inspections on major construction projects. Really examined it with fresh eyes like I was conducting a comprehensive structural assessment. The engineered hardwood floors I'd researched for 6 months before installation, comparing moisture resistance ratings and thermal expansion coefficients. The custom crown molding I'd crafted in my workshop, measuring and cutting each piece to accommodate the settling patterns unique to our foundation design. The whole house surge protection system I'd installed because Patricia's home office equipment was sensitive to power fluctuations. Every room contained evidence of problems I'd solved, systems I'd optimized, improvements I'd implemented, because Patricia mentioned wanting them. 4 decades of weekend projects and evening consultations, turning a house into exactly what she said she wanted our home to become. I went to my office and opened the fireproof filing cabinet in the corner, the same cabinet where I kept backup copies of all structural plans, warranty documentation, and permit records for every modification we'd made to the property. Inside was a thick folder marked Asset Protection Documentation containing paperwork Patricia had signed during what she'd called that boring legal stuff 8 years ago. The documents were exactly where I'd filed them, with Patricia's signature on every page that required spousal consent. Clean, clear, legally binding signatures she'd provided while focusing on the banking crisis that was threatening her career advancement prospects. At exactly 2 p.m., a black SUV pulled into our driveway like clockwork. I watched from the living room window as a woman in a tan coat stepped out, carrying the standard realtor toolkit of tablet computer, measuring tape, and the practiced eye of someone who spent her days converting family memories into market valuations. She looked to be in her 40s, with the efficient movement patterns of a professional who'd conducted hundreds of these assessments, reducing decades of homeowner investment into comparable square footage in current market trends. I opened the front door before she had a chance to ring the bell. "Good afternoon," I said, with the courteous professionalism I'd learned during years of dealing with building inspectors and city planning officials. "I'm Gordon Newman." She looked slightly surprised, like a contractor who'd expected to meet only the general manager but encountered the project engineer instead.
"Oh, hello.
"I'm Diane Foster with Premier Properties. I'm here to meet with Patricia Newman about a property assessment." "Please come in," I said, stepping aside with the measured courtesy of someone who understood the importance of maintaining professional relationships. "Patricia should be here shortly." Diane stepped inside and immediately began the systematic visual inspection that real estate professionals conduct instinctively, examining wall conditions, ceiling height, natural light exposure, general maintenance status. Her trained eye was cataloging improvements and calculating square footage even as we spoke. "This is a beautiful home," she said, with the automatic politeness of someone accustomed to delivering both good and devastating news about property values. "Thank you," I replied. "I designed most of the structural modifications myself." The courthouse smelled like old wood polish and decades of broken promises. I noticed it the moment Clarence Peterson and I walked through the metal detectors that Monday morning. The air had that heavy institutional weight that places acquire after witnessing too many people learning things they'd rather not know about their own lives. Patricia was already there with Daniel Bradley, her divorce attorney. He looked exactly like what central casting would order for a successful lawyer: tall, expensive charcoal suit, Italian leather briefcase. The kind of polished confidence that comes from winning cases where people had more money than legal sense. When Patricia saw me approaching, she managed that banking smile, but I could see the strain around the edges. 3 sleepless nights of wondering what I might know had left their mark on her usually flawless professional composure. "Gordon," she said as we approached the defendant's table, her voice carrying that carefully modulated tone she used during high-stakes loan negotiations. "Ready to get this resolved efficiently?" "I've been ready for months," I replied, noticing how she'd positioned herself slightly behind Daniel, like a general letting her field commander handle the tactical details while she observed from a strategic distance. Daniel Bradley stepped forward with his hand extended, all professional courtesy and practiced charm. "Mr. Newman, I'm Daniel Bradley. I represent Patricia's interests in this matter. I hope we can keep this straightforward and minimize any unnecessary complications." His handshake was firm, calculated, the kind of grip that had been refined through hundreds of client meetings and courtroom encounters. Everything about his demeanor suggested a man accustomed to getting favorable outcomes for clients who could afford his hourly rate. Clarence Peterson, my attorney, shook hands with both of them with the calm demeanor of someone who'd seen this exact scenario play out dozens of times. "Clarence Peterson, I represent Mr. Newman's interests." His voice carried the steady authority of an engineer discussing load-bearing specifications. No drama, just facts and structural integrity. The courtroom felt smaller than what you see in legal dramas, but somehow more intimidating when you're sitting there waiting to learn whether 4 decades of your life's work is about to be divided up like a corporate asset liquidation. Wood-paneled walls that had absorbed decades of family disputes, fluorescent lighting that made everyone look slightly ill, and rows of empty benches that had witnessed thousands of marital battles just like this one. Judge Eugene Reynolds presided, a man in his early 60s with silver hair and the patient expression of someone who'd refereed enough marital warfare to remain unimpressed by anyone's sob story. He reviewed our case file with the methodical attention of someone accustomed to cutting through emotional noise to find the underlying legal facts. Daniel Bradley went first, presenting Patricia's case with the smooth confidence of a man who delivered this same speech hundreds of times. Marital property accumulated over 38 years of shared investment, equitable distribution under state law requiring fair division of jointly acquired assets. Mutual contribution to household maintenance and property appreciation through both financial investment and domestic labor. He spoke about our house like it was just another line item in a portfolio analysis, not the place where I'd spent countless weekends fine-tuning systems and solving structural challenges that would have stumped most professional contractors. Numbers and square footage and market comparisons, reducing 4 decades of weekend projects and evening consultations to cold mathematical calculations. The marital residence represents the couple's primary asset, Daniel continued, gesturing toward a folder of property assessments and market analyses. Mrs. Newman has every legal right to expect equitable consideration in its disposition, whether through sale and division of proceeds or through alternative compensation arrangements. Patricia sat with perfect posture, hands folded, looking like a senior executive attending a board meeting where she expected unanimous approval of her strategic recommendations. Every few minutes, she'd glance at me with that expression banking managers use when they're confident the loan committee will rubber stamp their carefully prepared proposal. When Daniel finished his presentation, Clarence stood up slowly. He walked to our table carrying a single manila folder, placed it down with the deliberate precision of an engineer positioning a cornerstone, and looked directly at Judge Reynolds with the calm authority of someone about to present certified structural plans. "Your Honor," Clarence said in a measured tone that carried the weight of someone who'd spent years reviewing complex legal documents, "Mr. Bradley's summary is accurate in one important respect." Judge Reynolds looked up from his notes with the mild interest of someone accustomed to hearing unexpected developments in cases that initially appeared straightforward. "And what would that be, Mr. Peterson? The Newman residence has indeed served as the family home for 38 years. Clarence replied with the patient precision of someone explaining engineering specifications to a municipal planning committee. However, its legal ownership structure is considerably more complex than Mr. Bradley's presentation suggests. Patricia's confident smile faltered like a computer system encountering an unexpected error message. Her banking composure, which had remained steady through 3 decades of difficult negotiations, suddenly showed hairline cracks around the edges. Daniel frowned and leaned forward, suddenly looking less like a man delivering a routine closing argument and more like someone who just discovered a major miscalculation in his foundational assumptions. Clarence opened his folder and placed a document on the evidence table with the careful handling of someone presenting a blueprint for a critical infrastructure project. The paper was crisp, official, bearing multiple signatures and notary seals. This property was placed into a protective trust structure 8 years ago. Clarence continued with the methodical authority of someone explaining load-bearing requirements to a confused contractor, specifically designed to shield it from potential financial liability exposure during Mrs. Newman's banking institution's regulatory difficulties. Daniel's eyebrows shot up like a man who just discovered a major structural flaw he should have identified during the initial building inspection. Patricia turned sharply toward him and whispered something urgent under her breath, her carefully maintained professional demeanor cracking for the first time since this whole process began. The documentation clearly shows, Clarence continued with the patient authority of someone explaining complex engineering principles to a municipal review board, that ownership and administrative control of the property were transferred under specific legal conditions designed to protect the asset from potential creditor claims, regulatory penalties, or financial judgments that might have impacted Mrs. Newman's employer at the time. Judge Reynolds adjusted his reading glasses and began examining the document with the careful attention of someone reviewing structural plans before approving a major construction permit. The courtroom went dead silent, except for the quiet hum of the ventilation system and Patricia's sharp intake of breath. Daniel was flipping frantically through his files like a man searching for blueprints that should have been in the project folder from the beginning. His earlier confidence was evaporating like morning frost under direct sunlight. "Your Honor," Daniel said, his voice carrying a hollow quality I recognized from construction meetings, where someone had just discovered a critical engineering oversight. "This is the first time we've encountered this documentation." Patricia turned toward him with panic starting to replace her earlier confidence. "What do you mean the first time? How could you miss something this important during your asset review?" Judge Reynolds read the trust documents for what felt like an eternity, then looked up with the calm authority of someone who just verified that all the engineering calculations checked out perfectly. "Mr. Bradley," Judge Reynolds said in an even tone that carried the finality of a structural engineer signing off on completed blueprints, "were you aware of this trust arrangement when you filed your client's petition for asset division?" No, Your Honor, Daniel replied, his voice carrying the hollow quality of someone who just realized he'd been building his entire legal strategy on a foundation that didn't exist. This information was not disclosed during our preliminary asset review process. The judge turned toward Patricia with the patient attention of someone accustomed to getting complete answers to important questions. Mrs. Newman, do you recall signing these trust documents 8 years ago? Patricia opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again like a computer system cycling through error messages. Her banking composure, which had carried her through 3 decades of difficult financial negotiations, was completely gone. Those were just liability protection papers, she stammered, her voice losing the confident authority that had made loan applicants trust her judgment for years. During the bank's regulatory troubles, I thought they were routine business protection measures. Did you read the documents before signing them? Judge Reynolds asked with the methodical precision of someone conducting a thorough engineering inspection. Silence stretched across the courtroom like a cable under maximum tensile stress. Patricia stared at the table like it might provide technical specifications for escape routes. Mrs. Newman? The judge prompted gently with the patience of someone who'd heard this exact scenario countless times before. I trusted that they were standard protection measures, she admitted quietly, her voice barely audible above the courtroom's ventilation system. Gordon handled all the technical details. I was dealing with federal auditors at the bank. Judge Reynolds nodded with the understanding of someone who'd seen the consequences of people signing documents they hadn't bothered to read. Mr. Peterson, could you explain the trust structure for the court's clarification? Clarence stood with the calm authority of someone presenting final engineering calculations. Your Honor, the Newman Family Residence Trust was established with Mr. Newman as the sole trustee, specifically designed to protect the property from potential liability exposure related to Mrs. Newman's employment in the banking industry during a period of significant regulatory scrutiny. Daniel rubbed his forehead like a man calculating load factors he should have considered months earlier. Your Honor, we request additional time to review this development and assess our client's remaining options. Of course, Judge Reynolds said with the professional courtesy of someone managing complex construction projects, but I should inform you that the language in these trust documents appears quite explicit regarding property ownership and control. Clarence placed another document on the evidence table with the precise handling of someone submitting final structural specifications. Your Honor, the trust agreement also contains specific provisions regarding any potential transfer or sale of the property, which are, the judge asked, adjusting his reading glasses like an engineer reviewing critical technical drawings. Any sale, transfer, or major modification of the property requires unanimous written consent of the trustee. Clarence replied with the clarity of someone reading load-bearing specifications. In this case, Mr. Newman holds sole trustee authority over all decisions affecting the property. Patricia's face went white like someone who'd just discovered a catastrophic structural failure in a building she'd assumed was solid. What does that actually mean in practical terms? Daniel closed his eyes briefly, like a contractor who just realized the scope of his miscalculations. It means the house cannot be sold, transferred, or included in asset division without Gordon's explicit written permission as trustee. The words hung in the air like the silence after a major structural collapse. Patricia stared at me across the courtroom like she was seeing a complete stranger instead of someone she'd been married to for 38 years. You planned this entire scenario, she said, her voice carrying a mixture of disbelief and grudging recognition. You actually outmaneuvered me. No, Patricia, I replied quietly, meeting her eyes with the steady gaze of someone who'd spent 4 decades solving complex engineering problems. I protected our home against potential financial liability. There's a significant difference between planning revenge and implementing proper asset protection strategies. Judge Reynolds closed the folder with the finality of someone approving completed construction drawings. While this development certainly changes the scope of our discussion regarding divisible marital assets, Patricia turned back to Daniel with the desperate look of someone whose carefully calculated project had just encountered an insurmountable engineering obstacle. So what happens now? What are my actual options? Daniel loosened his tie slightly, like a contractor adjusting to unexpected working conditions. Now we reassess the remaining assets and determine what can actually be divided under the existing legal framework. Judge Reynolds looked at both attorneys with the authoritative patience of someone managing a complex municipal project. Gentlemen, I suggest you take adequate time to review all relevant documentation before we proceed with any further asset division proceedings. This court cannot divide property that isn't legally structured as divisible marital assets. As we filed out of the courtroom, Patricia walked past me without making eye contact, but I heard her whisper to Daniel with the hollow tone of someone whose project timeline had just been completely destroyed. This isn't how I calculated this would end. Maybe not, but for the first time since she'd sat at our kitchen table and announced she was entitled to half of everything I'd built. Patricia Newman was learning something that every good engineer understands. Assumptions without proper foundation analysis lead to structural failure. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my kitchen drinking coffee and reading the morning paper while sunlight streams through those custom triple-pane windows exactly like I designed them to 40 years ago. The whole house feels peaceful in a way it hadn't for years, like a complex system that's finally running at optimal efficiency. Patricia moved to a downtown condo near the bank's regional headquarters. She received her equitable share of the retirement accounts, her vehicle, and a reasonable settlement from our other joint assets, which represented exactly what she was legally entitled to under state divorce laws. Her bank offered her an attractive early retirement package when she decided the commute from her new location wasn't worth the stress, so she's managing her financial transition well. As for me, I've got my house, my workshop with all my precision tools and technical drawings, and the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing that 4 decades of methodical planning and attention to structural details finally delivered exactly the protection I designed it to provide. Some people might say I was too calculating in my approach to asset protection. Others might argue that Patricia got exactly what her assumptions and lack of attention to detail deserved. All I know for certain is this: when someone announces they're planning to dismantle everything you've spent your career building, you'd better make sure you actually understand the legal framework of what belongs to whom. And sometimes the quiet guy who reads the engineering specifications twice and keeps detailed documentation of every modification ends up being the one who's properly prepared when the stress tests begin. That's not revenge. That's just good engineering practice applied to real-world problem solving. The morning sun hits my coffee cup at exactly the right angle, filtered through windows I positioned with mathematical precision decades ago. Everything in this house works exactly like I designed it to, including the legal protections I built into its very foundation. Some structures are engineered to last, and some people finally learn to appreciate good engineering when it's too late to change the blueprints. In life, just like in engineering, the difference between success and failure isn't luck. It's the difference between people who prepare for every scenario and people who assume nothing will ever go wrong. 40 years taught me that the most dangerous words in any relationship are "I trust you'll handle the details," because the person who reads the fine print is usually the one who survives when everything falls apart.